England defeat Japan in their second game in Pool D by 34 points to 12, which is a relatively comfortable margin considering at half-time there was only 4 points in the game. A late try from Joe Marchant really stretching that scoreline out in England's favour, which potentially papers over the cracks of what was at times quite a nervous watch from an England fan. The game started off with both teams making quite considerable errors. The Japanese player dropping the ball over his own line led to a 5-metre scrum for England within the first sort of 60 seconds, which is ultimately the worst way to start from Japan. England don't really capitalise on it though. They get a penalty advantage and nothing prevails. So from less than 5 metres out, George Ford decides to take the 3 points, obviously alongside the captain Courtney Lawes. Now at the time I thought, as an opportunity missed, we've just let the pressure off completely, which is true. But at the same time, if England do go to the corner and don't prevail with any considerable 5-pointer or potentially 7, then look, that's a bad mistake also. So look, I'm unsure which is probably the best option there. I'd say any top 5 team in the world would back themselves to score. I wouldn't be surprised if that was a Scotland or South Africa, Ireland, New Zealand, France, them to just call a scrum and try and get that try. So look, it's always one of those dilemmas what you do, but England opted for the 3. Later got cancelled out by the Japanese, and then this is when it was the opportunity for England to really put their fans under masses of stress as George Ford gets his kick off of the scrum charge down. Now, if it wasn't for some miraculous tracking back and pace from Alex Mitchell, that would have been Japan under the sticks. So look, both teams had their nervous start, and England just managed to recover from theirs, in which Alex Mitchell cleared his lines with a lovely box kick. I was very impressed with Alex Mitchell in this game. Yes, he did make some errors. Yes, he did kick the ball dead a couple of times, but I think he's playing in a mould in terms of the Steve Borthwick mould in which he's not potentially used to playing at. Northampton play quick and fast ball with limited kicking, whereas at England he kicks the ball an awful lot. So look, I think he's done well to adapt to that game plan. Now, in terms of the game as a whole, a lot of handling errors. I mean, you could see via the sweat and just the pure humidity in the stadium, that was always going to be an issue. There was plenty in the first half. I think at least 6 handling errors from England in the first half, which ultimately did relieve the pressure quite a few times, which is probably why they struggled to cross over and score in the first half. Their try in the first half did come though. Some great work in the line-out, I believe, by Maritoji. The ball lands in the breadbasket of Ollie Chesham. He then gets driven back, but a couple phases later, the return to the squad for Lewis Ludlam was capped with a lovely try as he pushed over from 2-3 metres, which, if you ask me as an England fan, any try is a try, a glorious try, which is actually a better try than the one that gets scored directly after for a header by Joe Marler. Anyway, I can't believe that happened, but I'll get onto that in a second. And then 42 kicks from England across the test match and 37 via Japan. So look, that ultimately means it's not going to be a hugely entertaining watch, as both teams often relieve pressure via kicks and very limited sort of attacking from deep, but you can expect that in a World Cup. In terms of what England did well, I thought their defence, once again, not conceding any tries and just 4 penalties. Look, to not concede tries is obviously a massive positive. 4 penalties is quite a lot to concede in terms of points, but you know, if you're not going to concede tries, then there's obviously going to be points coming from elsewhere. Slightly better attack from England. You saw Elliot Daly on the curve a couple times, get to the edge, look a little bit dangerous, but once again, the Japanese cover defence put in some really nice tackles. So nothing in terms of tries prevailed from much attacking from deep. England did find themselves though very vulnerable to chips. Now, in between the sort of the defensive line and the fullback of Freddie Stewart, there was that lovely piece of grass just in between, in which the Japanese really did do very well to sort of target. A couple little chips, a couple grubbers, and then one of which was a box kick, but he kicked it over his head, so completely like directly over his head. Madness from Japan, but it worked. And they definitely caused mayhem. England did return the favour, countering some really hard and fast Japanese line speed with a couple nice chips, which ultimately helped to reduce the line speed of Japan in the long run, as they started to become aware that was one of England's threats. In terms of what Japan did well, I thought they looked a little bit more dangerous than England on the break. Whenever England made an error, for example, one of which England mauled the ball 20 metres up the pitch and then literally passed it to the floor, the Japanese looked to pounce, and a couple times they really did look like they could score. Not necessarily off of well-constructed play, but some really nice counter-attacks, sort of off of 1-2 phases. They struggled to go into sort of 5, 6, 7, 8 phases, but when they were playing sort of 1 to 3 phases off counter-attack, they did look dangerous. Goal kicking is an obvious positive for Japan. If they can keep this accuracy going up, they'll give teams like your likes of Samoa and Argentina, they'll do quite well, because if you can kick your goals against these teams, you're always in with a chance. Maul defence and discipline was really troublesome for Japan. Ultimately, England's maul, they've got that together, which caused a lot of penalties and conceded a lot of ground against Japan. And their discipline in general, quite a few offsides, one of which was just so blatant that I was surprised it didn't get a yellow card. The referee holds out a penalty advantage at the scrum, and then the ball gets passed out, and the Japanese are already literally on top of Manu Tuolangi, which is like physically impossible. So look, I don't believe there was a card in this game, so that was nice to see 15 on 15 play for the duration, but I wouldn't have been surprised if Japan conceded a yellow card there. Now, in terms of other try scores for England, I really like Freddie Stewart's try. I thought that was really quite a nice try, because after England's 500 attempted kicks, one of which actually led to a try, which was rather pleasing. George Ford off his weak foot, unbelievable. I was getting flashbacks to sort of Manny Lebocq from the week before, off his weak foot, and it wasn't no look though. This one wasn't no look, so you can't give him quite as much credit. But yeah, off his left boot, straight into the breadbasket of Freddie Stewart, who must have been at least sort of 6 inches taller than his opposing player, and he dots down. And then a lovely touchline conversion from George Ford. It was a really nice phase play and a real nice try. So that was one of which I was happy with. And now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Joe Marler, beautiful header to Courtney Lawes to score under the posts. Look, at the time I almost didn't want it to be given as a try, because I was thinking, look, if that's really worth a try, what sort of sport are we playing? Like, Will Stewart goes to catch the ball, he completely slips through his hands. Joe Marler then is looking completely away from the ball and bounces off his head, and then everyone stops running. Courtney Lawes picks it up and runs under the post. Like, I even felt guilty for accepting that as a try. It was a bit weird, to be honest, but there you go. You take the rough with the smooth, and as far as England are concerned, a try is a try, and we do struggle to score tries, so there you go. Look, felt good to score. Didn't feel good to score in that manner. You know, no one celebrated the try. It was sort of like, it was just weird. But, you know, if that's going to win you a match, then you take it every day of the week. But, so tries late on in the game was from Joe Marchant. Look, England were banging on the door for the bonus point, and eventually they did cross. Just some continuous just pounding at the line. One-off runners, no real sort of engineered attack. It was just consistent brute strength, with Billy V coming on and Ben Earl playing out of his skin. We just ground down that Japanese defence and eventually scored. So look, a good day out for England. A lot to work on, especially in that attack still. Nothing really clicked massively, and once again resorted to a lot of kicking. Now, part of me thinks, well, just do what works for you. If you can't score these tries, you know, well-constructed tries, then take the 3 points, try and get them all, try here and there. Don't try and play a game that you're simply not good at, which I completely understand that argument. It would really be nice to see England go through some phases, pull off a lovely slick back move, and score some tries. But look, that's not the England team that we currently have at the moment. We've got to embrace what we've got. And look, it's 1-2 games on the spin. One against a strong Argentinian side, and one against an underperforming but still quality Japanese team. So look, let me know what your thoughts are on the match. Ultimately, a win's a win. You take the win, especially by 22 points, and you roll on to the next game against Chile. Look, England sat on 9 points now after 2 games. You can't really complain about that. And let me know what your thoughts are on the game. Let me know your thoughts on the performances also. And I'll get back to every single one of you as always. But ultimately, thank you very much for watching.